3 a.m. podcast. We have Yeshim on today, and I am very, very, very curious about what you do, what you're passionate about. A lot of what I read was I don't know a lot about, so I am looking forward to learning everything I can today.
All right. Well, hi, Kevin. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate
All
it.
right.
It's nice to see people that seek out passions and also have their own passions. So I think life is all about that, seeking that passion, that spark. And so for mine, it's been building for quite a few years. I uh well, first of all, a lot of people would say, okay, so you're an end of life doula. Well, yes, and no, not just that. So let's just take the doula meaning, which is a woman that does the work. So
Okay.
let me clarify, because a lot of people, the original doulas were the birth doulas. So they were the ladies that would go in, and we're talking, thousands of years of this, so it's nothing new.
Yeah.
But these ladies would go in and help, ladies have birth at home. So it was a coven, it was a sisterhood, it was something really sacred and special.
Okay.
Fast forward to the 70s, they decided to take the word doula and incorporate that with also somebody that works with people at end of life.
Okay.
So I don't know if we're taking away any sacredness from the birth doula, but the meaning itself, meaning that we're here to care for, and there was death workers, uh death supportive people, non-medical, and so that anyway, that the same type of work, as people are born, people are dying.
Yeah.
So people have always been around to support the end of life journey. My whole stance right now, as we fast forward to now at 2026, it's really been an enormous change, from supporting actual end of life to now sort of, okay, you're dying. So let's say you have a prognosis. There's no compassion. It's over medicalized now. We've taken death care out of the home and put it into institution. Those are things that, yes, I realize it can happen, but I'm here to be a representative and a bridge builder to families so that I can teach them and support them, which is what the work is, but also through education. My goal is to bring that back, for families to be empowered.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So doula got so it now represents bringing life into the world and then helping people
Well,
leave the world.
yeah, it was, the first term was for the birth
Yeah.
doulas technically.
Okay.
And so then we fast forward to the 70s, where things are kind of progressing in that hospice, palliative care movement, which, thank you to Beverly Kubler Ross, who had brought hospice through the war in the 40s. She knew that there was something that needed more for people at the end of life, not just do you need pain relief? Are you dry in the mouth? We have mouth swabs. Do you need to be changed? We have all those, it's deeper than that. So we've really kind of, taken away from that and not made it so sacred anymore. So
So
that's sort of my mission.
do you kind of work from a spiritual standpoint? Like all right, so let's say I've got, how does the whole process work from beginning to end? Let's say I've got, uh, my dad is dying. And how do you get introduced into that situation? Like how does the whole process go from the beginning?
Well, the end of life doula part for me is kind of not the main focus. I've been a caregiver for a long time. I started working on an ambulance in my early days, and it just wasn't, kind of fitting to what I wanted to do.
Okay.
And so I wanted to explore deeper. And so being a caregiver and then having all these skills that you have to have as a caregiver, right? So my point is that no, I don't want somebody to call me, and it's not that I won't serve somebody at the end of life
Yeah.
immediately, but I don't want that to be a thing for people. Again,
Okay.
don't call the doula unless you really have to. I'm also a teacher, so
Okay.
I have classes designed to teach you. Yes, and then the part that's missing is the spiritual part. So rewinding real quick, I'm kind of bouncing
That's
around.
okay.
Apologies.
We'll bounce.
As a caregiver, you spend time with people.
Yeah.
Sometimes we spend years with people, and then we're there for that end of life part. It's a it's kind of like a scale. I don't want to go into someone's house I don't know. They don't know me.
Okay.
It may work, it may not. But it's really on a spiritual level, and it's up to the person that's dying.
Okay.
And so when you work with the family, then you're established, you have this truth, then they want you there.
Okay.
Um, and then I'm also willing to be there because I know a lot of people don't have family. But there has to be a chance to build some trust.
Okay.
And so my company is all encompassing. I also teach, and I teach life-saving skills, CPR, advanced cardio life support, and then I teach you how to take care of your loved ones. As if you want to become a doula, we have all those things, and then we do the end of life part. So I try to make a full circle of,
Okay. So it's
instead of just going for the end of life doula, because that doesn't work. You
yeah.
have to have experience. It's just like lifting, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't just go pick up 400 pounds.
No, you have to figure it
And
out. You have to figure out what you respond to. Yeah.
so
Okay. So it's a bigger spectrum. So we're looking at a much bigger spectrum than just sliding in the front door when someone's dying and helping them die. Okay.
yeah.
So how do you determine, how do you build that relationship? So how is that relationship built early on? Like that, I guess that's what I'm curious about is how would that relationship be built before you're needed, right? I guess
Right,
at
right.
the very end. How is that built? How is that done?
Well, my company is not an ego-based company, right? So I don't advertise that I'm not, like I said, a caregiver is a housekeeper,
Yeah.
a handyman, a psychologist,
Yeah.
all the things. And so, when you go into a home, people call me early on and say, Grandma or Grandpa is, they're a little unsteady. They can't do some things. And so you put down your boundaries and you say, yes, I can lift the 10 pounds, but I'm not going to do anything over 40 or 50, right?
Yeah.
So, build a boundary, build a trust, do what they want, exactly how they want. And then eventually, you just end up being part of their life.
Okay.
And so we don't just, it may be scrubbing the bathroom, and then it leads to, now they need help bathing. Now they need help with other things. Now you have to drive the car. Now,
So your
and
main focus is the caretaking and the relationship building.
the relationship building, yes.
Okay.
And part of building that relationship is through caregiving. Yes.
Okay. Um
Yeah.
yeah, what got you into this? Because I'm sure someone who gets into that sort of thing has to be very passionate about it. So because I've never thought about it. I've literally never thought about helping anyone leave the world, or I've never like that has never even crossed my mind. And I don't know if
Yeah.
so what got you, when did you start the path you're on right now? And what kind of led you to that path?
Well, just quickly, I wanted to touch on your last point
Okay.
that you had never thought about it,
Yeah.
and it is quite popular, because you can think of end of life as the end of life. Well, it's the end of this vessel. And you can believe whatever you want; it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But the point being is, it's really something we have to look at and decide. Yes, there's a lot of parameters, and I think it's just scary for people to think about, but it should have been more scarier if we could think about being born. It's like we come out and we're like, oh crap, what do we do now? And we have to rely on this person, and we have
Yeah.
to, hope that we have, lucky caregiving, nourishment, all the things that we need. The end of life should be just the same, in terms of like supporting someone and saying, you're not alone unless you want to be,
Yeah.
it's all your decision.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, I find that to be really prevalent in Western culture, unfortunately. Like I said, we've over medicalized a lot. We've gotten away from the spirituality end of things. A lot of people, you say things like spirituality, they're like, oh, I don't want to hear that hippie mumbo,
Yeah. Yeah.
you better not be like, you're not going to burn sage over it. And it's like, I'm not doing anything that I'm only going to honor you. That's my job,
Yeah.
to make sure I follow and honor you and your wishes. So, yeah, it can be anything. I've had interesting, to say the least, end of life, requests.
Yeah, I'm curious about that, but I want to hold off on that for a little while. I'm very curious about what people talk about when they're at the end. What they talk about, their regrets, stuff like that, because I think learning about that can teach us a lot about life itself. And that's interesting that you speak on it's been over medicalized. I know that it seems like we're getting rid of grief. And I think we're not comfortable in society with grief. The living room used to be called the parlor. And so the
Yes,
parlor was where they put your dead loved one for 2, 3 days. And people would sit around
yes.
and they would grieve and they would go through that process. So I think that's really interesting that you brought that up because that it does seem to be a shift in society that we're just not comfortable with grief anymore. We want to turn our back to it.
Well, I think not to overcomplicate everything, but men aren't supposed to cry, right?
Yeah.
And women have men
Yeah.
have, we the society has determined what the roles of each person is going to be, and for some of that, with men and women, some of that I agree with, some of it I don't,
Yeah.
so, yes, you're right, exactly right. That's why part of my, business, I'm also a grief specialist, so I work with, microdosing with people for grief.
Okay.
But yeah, we don't grieve. We don't have these rituals or ceremonies or things that are, things that we honor our dead. It, it is true. I grew up that way as well. Our passed away individuals sat at the house. People came to visit. It was just sort of a natural thing. I didn't feel sad. Maybe experiencing it for the first time as a child, it's kind of like, wow, but
Yeah.
a lot of children aren't even allowed to, even be involved in that decision making or grieving process either, so
Yeah.
having had that,
Yeah, it seems like whatever's uncomfortable, we try to get rid of. We're not comfortable with the uncomfortable anymore, and that's always been interesting to me. So let's circle back. How did you become passionate about this? Was there something in your life that happened or whatever? Like, what set you on this path? What developed this passion for you?
well, I guess the first little tidbits, at an early age was, always being taught to, respect your elders. So, um, that was one of the, top 10 or 20,000 rules we had in the house, but whatever, was definitely the top, one of the top
Yeah.
rules. you know, 70s kid, I mean, you can play in the dirt and play in the dirty creek, but you can't, there's certain things you're just not allowed to
Yeah.
do. So one of them was disrespecting, So we had an elder couple across the street, and every day, somebody would go over there, if not multiple of us, to check on. So that was the spark.
Okay.
Um, but the second real thing was coming to my grandpa's house, and he was a cowboy and he was a working man. He got out of the military and they told him he had MS, and it was like you couldn't really even tell
Yeah.
at the time. Um, and then I made it out, and was just a kid, and um, had some time when he was able to still be limber. And then it just, in those days, seemed to really just advance so quickly. They didn't have medications. They didn't,
Yeah.
he still had his voice. But yeah, caring for him 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and then running the ranch.
Yeah.
So, it, the term of pick up your big boy or big girl panties and get on with it. And that's not to diminish, that's not to say that's what strength is, but it's resilience. And so, yeah,
So it was kind of
moving forward now.
so you were kind of just set on a natural path.
Yeah,
So it
yeah, I
wasn't like
suppose
a
so.
big bang. It wasn't like something dramatic happened in your life and you went down this road or anything like that. It was just kind of a natural path and sort of incorporating how you were raised.
Took a little time to get to the grandpa part in between, yeah,
Yeah.
but yes, naturally was meant to be. And so we can't question those moments. Is there really such a thing as a coincidence anyway?
No,
So
that's I don't think there is. So, okay, so you build relationships and then through the building, so everything I guess I wouldn't have guessed this, but everything seemed very natural about it. Like the way you go in is natural, the way it started is sort of natural. It's just sort of an it it's a with the relationship building, it just seems like it's a lot more natural than I would have thought. I would have thought like somebody just calls a phone number when they're dying, and then somebody holds their hand while they're dying. Like I wouldn't get
what
I wouldn't have guessed how natural it's presented.
I I know that there are we're growing now.
Yeah,
And I'm not I've had a lot of experience. I'm 54. I'm coming into my um my whatever, my I'm going to be a crone soon. I want to be an old lady teacher. I want
yeah.
to be somebody that's teaching you about all this stuff that I've done and incorporated. We still, this is based on experience and school, and a lot of it on experience
Yeah.
and working with people. And you can't, the same for, if you wanted to be a bodybuilder teacher, you have spent years, how the body works, what is going to work for someone
Yeah.
else when you're working with them. um
Okay.
there's a lot of young people out there that are, and no offense to the young people, but this type of work, this spirituality, the time, the patience, the everything that comes with it can't just be achieved in one night.
Okay. So it has to be
Um,
fostered.
I think you have to earn with the experience. Yeah, I'm not saying people won't be good at it, but again, I'm really trying to turn around families, because hospice has changed too a lot. And even though hospice was supposed to be the people that you turn to that would come and support the family,
Yeah.
and then the doula was an added thing. But what's happening is that families are stuck. Hospice doesn't come in and teach you what to do. They can, some really good hospice people I've worked with through the years are really awesome,
Yeah.
but it's not the same in the whole context of hospice.
Okay.
And it should be, you know, but they're not coming in to help you per se, in all of your needs. The family is still doing lots, a huge portion of the care and the doing of the person.
So they're still doing the heavy lifting. I guess I've never even experienced anyone going to hospice. what is hospice like now? What did it, so they used to come in and they used to teach you how to deal with it. What is it like now? What is hospice? What how is that transition?
Well, I don't want to speak for every company,
Okay.
but you know,
In general.
it's a lot of different facets. It depends on if you're working with hospice through the hospital. It depends on if you're working with an independent hospice company, um, or agencies. You know, it's has grown exponentially. You know, and
Exponentially.
with exponentially with money and again, I'm everybody has to work. I'm not putting anybody
Yeah.
down. I'm just saying that what it looks like now is, you know, maybe once a week a nurse will come and visit you. They say they offer respite. Many times I've only seen one or two CNAs coming for maybe an hour or two a week,
Okay.
and that's out of a whole long week. And I'm not they're not saying that they're going to come and do that for you all the time, but it used to be a lot more, and now it's not. A lot of changes. So that's and again, no offense to any hospice. I've worked with some of the most amazing people. I volunteered at hospice, and I mean, hands down, you know,
Yeah.
those are the people you want on your team. Unfortunately, the whole team is not playing the same.
Okay, I gotcha. So what do you think all right, so you've got a lot of experience with death. What do you think people struggle with the most? Let's approach it from the person who's on their way out and the family members. What do you think? What is your main thing that you have to work with them on?
Well, one thing I do hear quite often, and not from everybody, obviously,
Yeah,
but this is why, you know, it's interesting because we're talking about the end of life, and I'm always focused on we have life now. So when you get to your end of life, what are you going to be thinking about? What are you
that
going to leave behind?
that's
And
fascinating to
so,
me. Yeah, that
so
part
it's
is
hard.
fascinating.
That's it's hard to say, you know, because well, you hear a lot of regret, and
Okay,
that's the thing, you know, regret. Um, I wished I would have lived a life that was true to myself.
okay,
I wished I would have had more time with my family. I wished I would have made my dreams come to fruition.
yeah.
I wished,
Take
you know, those type of
taking
things.
more
I
chances.
wish that Yeah. I wish that, you know, all regret. I wished I had when we have now and we can,
Yeah,
not shoulda.
yeah.
So,
So that's something that people can take away from that is that because we are alive right now. That see, I'm always very, very interested in the psychological angle and peeling back a couple layers and figuring out what we can learn today from what we're going to go through when we're on our way out, when we're dying, and
yeah.
how we can kind of learn from that. And I know it's kind of one of those unlearnable lessons. You know, they say all the money in the world isn't going to make you happy. And then someone goes get all the money in the world, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not that happy. I just have money, right?" So it's kind of one of those lessons where people can tell us over and over and over something, and we have to figure it out for ourselves. But I'm really fascinated in what we can learn about life from death.
Well, what we learn when something is absent from our life. So we experience many, you know, pseudo deaths throughout our life, right?
Yeah,
So we're experiencing grief the same way. So when you have a relationship, for example, and you break up with that person, and how we've all been there, you know, rolled up in the corner of the house, haven't showered for like 2 weeks, you know, ice cream dripping down your chin or whatever it is,
yeah,
you know, I'm over dramatizing it, but
yeah.
trying to make it funny. The point is that, you know, that regret, you know, how could we have done it better? And yes, I think it's important. I think you had made that point not too long ago on a video where you're like, it's something about, you can't really just sit there and cry
Yeah.
all the time,
Yeah.
but crying is good,
Crying is important, but you cannot just sit there and stay in your crying. You have to cry and then you
Yes.
have to move forward. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're not always, and one important thing is that, another thing I think that a lot of people should understand is nobody owes us anything except, maybe if you go out to eat and you give them a 50, your meal was 30, you'd expect at least $10 to come back and the other for a tip,
Yeah.
But in terms of, how we're going to live our life, if we're in our 50s at the halfway point of our life and we're still saying that mofo or that person or this,
Yeah.
the constant, or even the constant beratement of yourself where you're like, I'm a piece of crap, I'm this. It's okay to be in that moment for a minute. Yeah, I'm a piece of crap. I looked at myself in the mirror. I messed up.
Yep.
Now, what are you going to do, Yeshim? What
Yeah.
am I going to do, Kevin?
Yeah. That's so.
We can live that.
I think we end up giving our agency away to other people all the time because we have agency. We're the common denominators in everything we go through in our life. And I think too many times we are more comfortable, and I understand it being more comfortable, but I think we're too comfortable blaming other people for everything that happens in our lives, and you see it all the time. You see, my ex was this, my ex was this, my ex was this, or I didn't succeed in business because of this, and that it's almost never put on themselves. It's never I didn't succeed in business because I quit, because the
Yeah.
exit to failure was before the exit to success.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Great reading there.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's fascinating. So how long have you been in this? So do you own a company?
It's
Okay, tell me when you started it and tell me all about it. Tell me how people can if tell me how what kind of services it provides and tell me how people can connect with you.
Well, I started Sacred Warrior Elder Care
Okay.
about 15 years ago. That was my first business. And that was just caregiving.
Okay.
So then since that I've morphed into Sacred Warrior Journey End of Life Care.
Okay.
And so, I guess I've been running a business for about 20 years, but this little baby I'm nurturing, I've started about 5 years ago. So,
Okay, so it's been an
um,
evolution too. So you evolved a little bit.
yeah,
Okay.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely an evolution. I think that's important, because I feel like, because we're so diverse as a society, I feel like, I'd like to be prepared for whatever happens to whatever I walk into.
Okay.
And so I'd like to be also, educated on maybe certain customs or things like that. So, and that's what I'm saying about, young people. You learn the little tricks and the stuff and you grow your business. But I'm again trying to change the culture of 1-800 call doula. I'm really focused on
Yeah.
teaching and empowering families.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. Okay, so you've been
How do you turn a spiritual thing into a corporate, thing? Like I'm not trying to,
yeah,
how
I'm
do you?
afraid we've done
It,
that with everything. I think I
I mean,
good.
it's just all across the healing arts. You see a lot of, I mean, take massage and how much it's been, and I'm not going to get into the whole politics and
Yeah.
stuff because I want to stray away from that, but just a lot's changed. I'd like people to really embrace that sacredness of what you're doing as a healing art.
Yeah.
It's been going on for thousands of years. Why, it kind of feels like some people have bastardized the whole, you know.
Yeah, we definitely as a society, I think that everything becomes automated. I think, we're not comfortable with uncomfortability. I don't know if I'm sure 50 years ago, a lot more people were actually taking care of their loved ones when they went through something instead of just putting them in a home. I think that,
Yeah.
I'm sure of that. I think we're just uncomfortable with uncomfortability, and it ends up automating a lot of things. And if we were maybe to not be so uncomfortable with the uncomfortability, and maybe if we sat in that uncomfortability, I think maybe that could teach us a lot more than avoiding it.
Oh, on that, and changing the way aging looks in a drastic way, because unfortunately you're talking about an elder that maybe can't walk anymore, and if they're not blessed with a huge family and it ends up being one or two people that would have to take care of that person for 24 hours, you have no idea how long that'll last.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, "Oh, she's on her way out." And it's like, no,
Maybe in
they
10
just can't
years.
walk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe in 10 years. So, it becomes so, oh, it's really hard on all aspects, especially if you're only limited to a couple of people that can take care of a family member.
Yeah.
And so at that point, you have you have to make the decision. It's not easy. It sucks all around. But a lot of times I follow some people to nursing homes and then I become their advocate there.
Okay.
And it's a lot different of a setting. You go from home to where everything is done right to going to a place to make sure that they're getting it done right. And so you're doing a lot of the care there.
Okay.
And I've worked with families where, somebody went every day. And so it's a family member checking. Did they get changed? Did they get the food they needed? Is their room clean? What are they feel not declining at on that particular day?
Yeah.
Is their eyesight still good? Then if their eyesight's not good, then you have to advocate for them to get a doctor, and then you have to wait for the doctor, and then you have to be there to make sure the doctor showed up, and yada yada yada. And nursing homes are not the solution either, unless we can change the way aging looks, because what do poor lonely people do when they're alone? I know aging people right now that are alone
Yeah.
and have no one. What do? They don't know where to start. I mean, they have little agencies here and there,
Yeah.
but the mass quantities, you have to wait, you have to wait. Why aren't people doing more, like advocating? It's like the homeless. Everybody's like, "Oh, the homeless are a problem. We're gonna have to move the camp." Where are the people walking the streets and going, "Yo, you want to have a conversation real quick? Let me buy you a cup of coffee or lunch. Can I take a census? Do you want to be out in the street? No. Why? Okay. You need this, and that. You need some mental health. Okay, cool. I got all these things, but you really do want to get off the street and help yourself, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, let's get you off the street. I mean, you can't force anybody to do change or anything,
Yeah. So
you know?
that seems very, very human. That seems like a
Yeah,
very, very human angle you're coming from.
so why are corporations owning nursing homes?
Money.
Money.
That's exactly what it is. It's money. I think everything sort of boils down to money today. So I know that we are never the finished product. I know that, maybe, ever since I started doing podcasts, I've become slightly better at conversating. I've been, I've gotten better at talking to people, because before this, I had such bad social anxiety. I used to, I went, the first couple of videos I did, I would get on video and I'm like, oh no, I fucked up. And I hit the stop button and I do it again. I do 15 videos in a row, and then I'd have to stop watching them, because the second I don't watch my videos now, because if I watch it, I'm going to be like, nope, do that over again. That is no good. So I carry a little bit of anxiety, but it's helped me with that. How have you evolved? What have you learned personally through doing this that maybe you didn't see coming, or like how have you evolved as a person from helping people?
Gosh, I guess there's a lot of things. I mean, you know, you know, being good with being an idiot sometimes,
Okay.
and knowing when you messed up, reflecting on that, learning a whole lot from just sitting with seniors.
Okay.
I mean, the fact that we don't even consider them even any historical value. I mean, let alone that, I love my grandma because she's cool, or I love my grandpa because he's a neat guy and taught me a lot of things. The historical living history,
Yeah.
learning all that. But as far as a person, yeah, resilience, um, taking time, like I said, to I don't know everything, and sometimes I'm winging it.
Yeah.
I'm following someone's lead. Um, I'm learning to love myself a lot more and to let all the little things go.
Okay.
That it doesn't even deserve much attention, really,
Yeah.
even though I give it some attention. But now it's like, it's kind of like opening up the, molded yogurt thing. You have to open it to investigate it. It's bad. You can see it through the container, right? It's got all this mold, but you still got to open it and go, oh yeah, no, throw it away.
Some of us have to open
That
it, take 3 bites, and shit our pants. Some of us some of us are prone to go just a little bit further with that.
I mean, we have, looked at it, licked it, investigated it.
Okay, so
Don't stick the finger in the Bible.
because I know, so, all right, so I got reunited with my dad maybe a couple years ago, and he is going downhill really quick. So I know one thing I've learned, and that's just, I've witnessed death in my life, but it wasn't as close as someone like my dad. I've seen a lot of people die. I've witnessed a lot of that, and I know since I have kind of reunited with my dad a little bit, and I know that he's not going to be around in a couple years. I have started looking at my life and figuring out what is more important, what's less important, kind of my day to day stuff. I don't want to be at the end of my life and be like, oh, I didn't even enjoy my life. All I did was work. I didn't do the things I love to do. I didn't, spend time with people who I cared about. All I cared about was making money, making money, making money. And here I am at the end of my life. So I know just since then, and that's just a little bit of brush with it, because I know that he's got a lot of freaking regrets. I know he hasn't done real well in life. He's got a lot of regrets in his life. So that has forced me to try and look a little bit deeper in mine and make sure, kind of weed out some of the regrets I would have later on right now.
Yeah,
So I
it's important.
go ahead.
It's also. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's
Go
okay.
ahead.
Go ahead.
Uh, I think it's how you made people feel. If let's hypothetically say you or I die right now,
Yeah.
the last person you spoke with, or over the years, have you made those amends,
Okay.
if you could, but more importantly, have you made the amends within yourself? Because, I struggled with that when my mom passed away. I was like, and she wasn't the greatest mom, and I'm not going to rake her over the coals, but,
Yeah.
um, there were moments. And so, having not seen her, I can't sit down with her and have this conversation.
Yeah.
And I can't take it with me to my death because she's already in her journey, on her journey. She's gone
Okay.
physically. And I'm living.
Yeah.
So am I gonna regret that for the rest of my life, I really can't. I can't allow myself to. I can do good, that's why I think a lot of people can learn some rituals or some discipline that they do that centers them, that makes them come back. Or even around the grief and the end of life. How was the end of life? How are you envisioning that you want to go.
Yeah.
People want their people around them,
Yeah.
or not, or
I think that
so
I think that's interesting how you kind of mentioned our relationship with ourselves, because here I was. I think if we can develop a good relationship with ourselves, I think that helps us with our relationship with other people. And maybe it's more important to become comfortable with yourself, because I think that's probably who we're going to be hardest on at the end of our life is ourselves.
yeah,
Because I mean,
yeah,
we have 60 to 80, just to go down a rabbit hole real quick. We have like 60 to 80 thoughts per day. The average person, 80,000, 60 to 80,000 thoughts per day. And predominantly those are self-deprecating, repetitive thoughts. So I really like how you mentioned kind of that relationship with ourselves. I think that's probably one of the most important relationships that we can develop, because everything kind of flows from that. And I like that idea.
a lot of a lot of us, including myself, without even thinking, it takes, not it doesn't take very long to build a habit,
Yeah.
and then you're in it.
Yeah.
What takes long is changing that.
Yeah.
Anger, but a lot of people are walking with being so in our heads that we're making trauma responses even without trauma.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that to diminish someone's trauma.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you can traumatize yourself too,
Yeah. And
but a lot of people are making these remarks like, I'm all good with a man opening a door for me. I appreciate it. Or a woman.
yeah.
It doesn't really matter. The point is that we have some manners, and those are the things that, but you don't see that anymore. You say thank you to someone and they don't say anything back, and you're like, or please, and so, I tend to gravitate. We like to support the businesses that that you can be real with your butcher at the grocery store, or the produce lady, or the station lady.
Yeah.
You have this, like, hey girl, thank you, have a great day. Love that, crave that,
Yeah.
wish it was more,
So yeah, that's so kind of our biggest legacy. Our biggest legacy could be, in this context, what people carry after we leave, and how people think about us, how people feel about us. Because I mean, all the money in the world, our vehicles we drive, all that is just bullshit. Really, in the end,
yeah.
I think it's all bullshit. Everything we collect materialistically in life is complete bullshit, because we're gonna fucking die, and then someone else can be using it. Like, it doesn't really mean anything. So maybe our biggest legacy and our biggest takeaway could be what people think of us after we leave, how we made people feel.
Such an interesting point you made up, because all of our crap, okay, that's something that I have a segment in my class.
Okay.
We talk about that. I'm like, okay, so let's talk about your stuff. And everyone's like, how's that tied to death and dying? I mean, maybe some are like, okay, I get it. We're going to talk about our stuff.
Yeah.
No, let's talk about our stuff,
Yeah.
because you're going to be up there, waving at your loved one like, goodbye, sorry, left you, mounds of, stuff.
Yeah.
And so I always think that it's really neat when you don't have to. Some people like to wait till after they're gone. But I really like families that have already said, like, hey, grandma said that you could have this.
Okay.
Why don't you go ahead and take it now?
That makes it
I
more
don't
human,
mean,
also, kind of.
and it's kind of like an honoring
Yeah.
ceremony. Like, you get to see grandma or grandpa before they die with the thing that they gave you, and then it means so much more that you're able to talk to them about the history, what it is,
Yeah. I like that.
whatever, and then be able to be thankful and grateful to them and hug them, and instead of like, because let's face it, not all deaths they're not very
So
pretty.
I don't think any of
They're
them are really pretty at all, honestly. In the
some
end.
people. I'm like, man, they haven't even put them in the ground. They're already over
They're
there in
fighting.
the, Wow.
Yeah.
But I mean,
So instead of a
again, it's
checklist.
your conscience you have to. Yeah, I mean, it's your conscience you have to live with. You're
Yeah.
still living, so haha, jokes on you, not them.
Okay.
But
So if someone was wanting to take a class to learn the particular skills you teach, how would they get hold of you to do that? Is there a website? Do they?
yeah,
Okay.
there's a website. It's sacredwarriorjourneyendoflifecare.com.
Okay.
And everything there is listed. I also am an instructor for CPR and first aid through the American Heart Association for 25 years. I also do grief, and I'm also a pediatric end of life doula.
Okay.
Um,
That's
yeah,
interesting.
working with kids.
So you're a pediatric end of life doula also. How does that differ for you?
Well, it is the struggle
Yeah.
because that's not where it's supposed to happen
Yeah.
in that way, right?
Yeah.
Naturally, it is for our seniors, but so again, when you don't speak, you're speaking.
Yeah.
So people still need connection. They still need touch. They still need a meal made. They still need to feel like they are supported and not alone
Yeah.
unless they want to be alone. And that's the problem with this country all across the board, being a doula or not, is connecting with people
Yeah.
and teaching people to how to connect. I used to think there was no way, either you had it or not, either you were um you could teach people empathy. I was like, no way.
Yeah.
I was younger, it was a pistol, and I'm like, no, either you're empathetic or you're not, period. There's a line. Now I've changed, obviously. Now I think that people can learn to be empathetic, because I think a lot of why it's not so prevalent is because insecurity.
Okay.
If you're a man and you're connecting with somebody spiritually, they're like, this guy's all tatted up and he deep voiced and he lifts 500 pounds. How can he possibly be spiritual and connect with some? Well, because he can,
Yeah. I think
you know.
actually, for some people, it's easier to be able to dig into that side of you, whether it's the spiritual side, whether we all have masculinity and femininity in us. We all have vulnerabilities. We all have, and I think sometimes it's easier to do that if you present as a big, strong, tatted up guy, because then it becomes kind of charming. But if you've got just a 5'5" kind of non-assuming guy who isn't overly masculine. And then I think if we see him doing something like that, or he's putting out videos, he's showing vulnerability, I think it's looked at different, because then we're just like, oh, that guy's fucking gay, right? Because he doesn't present that other side that makes it kind of a charming aspect to his personality.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I
I think all part of life is the creating your own legacy.
yeah,
So, part of the things that I help people figure out is asking them, basic questions and connecting with them from there,
yeah,
like, what's one thing you're really proud of, right now? What's one thing that you would want to pass on to somebody, some knowledge, some tidbit, something,
yeah,
those things. And if you look back, like, it doesn't have to be this colorful thing. I mean, one person shows up at my funeral or memorial or whatever, and says that woman changed my life in that moment and helped me. Like,
that's a win.
cool.
That's a
It's not
win.
about ego. It's not
Yeah.
about numbers.
Yeah, that's definitely a win if you're able to change somebody's life in some way meaningfully. Yeah,
Yeah, a little boy comes up to you 10, 20 years from now and says, man, you have no idea.
yeah,
And that's enough to bring me to my knees and bawl it out,
yeah, yeah. That's good motivation. So I've got a sort of in wrapping up, I've got sort of a tradition that I did not warn you about. Sometimes I warn people, but I forgot to warn you about this tradition. At the end, I like to ask some people, like, what do you still deal with in your life personally that you have a hard time with? So we all have things that we're good at, and we all have these things that people look up to us about. But I think that we don't enough show that other side of us. Like, it's okay. Look, I struggle with this, or I deal with this. I'm full of self doubts at 2 a.m. I'll wake up and take a piss, and I'm like, oh my god, am I doing the right thing? So what do you still struggle with personally in your life that's harder to talk about?
Yeah, that's a great question. What do I struggle with
Yeah.
still? Um, bits of my childhood for sure.
Okay.
Um, when that, ugly little abandonment thingy behind my head or whatever flares up
Yeah.
on occasion, it's like, ooh, and yeah, I've got a tool belt with, a sickle and a guillotine,
Yeah.
maybe, some really hardcore weaponry, but sometimes when those things flare up, you're like, oh, nothing's going to work. And then you realize the only thing that's going to help you is to turn around and be compassionate with yourself. And you're like, no, but I want to fight that because
Yeah.
that thing is a POS. And
Yeah, because that's
and so,
uncomfortable.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that feeling.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they can show up in different disguises. Amazing how they can, or maybe my mind likes to pretend that I cloak them so I really don't have to see it, but
Yeah.
it's there. Hello, I'm here. Mofo.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I appreciated that. That was pretty deep. A lot of people I'll ask them that at the end of an episode, and they just kind of give me a garbage. I don't want to say any of my guests or garbage, or I don't want to say it, but it's already said. Because I don't know how to edit. But I don't mean what I mean is, like, a lot of people are uncomfortable with that sort of question. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Yeah. Um, will,
I'm human.
will you send me a link to your website? When
Yes.
when we're done with the video, send me a link to your website, and I will post it underneath. So I'll tag you in this
Oh,
on
okay.
Facebook, and then I'll post a link to your website underneath.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you'll put this on your page.
I'll put this on my page, and I'll put it on the 3 a.m. Pillow Talk page, and I'll tag you in it on my page, and then it's going to go up on YouTube.
The 3 Pillow Talk page really made me excited because I used to listen to, I think they came on at 2 a.m. or something.
Yeah.
What were they? The Love Boys? The Love Doctors?
Oh, I have no idea. We might be showing our age. And we're
Okay.
about the same age.
Well, back then in the 90s, he was an old age.
Yeah, I came up with the name for the podcast because I'll wake up with anxiety sometimes in the middle of the night and not have anyone to talk to. So I'll just wake up and I'll have these deep thoughts, these racing thoughts, these philosophical thoughts, or I'll be full of fucking anxiety and self-doubt, and I have nobody to talk to about it. So I started waking up, kind of putting it in my notes. I was like, well, what if I start talking about this sort of thing? Because I bet we all think that we struggle with things, and we're kind of all on our own struggling with things. But I think we all kind of struggle with the same fucking thing. I think
Yeah,
if we can, yeah, and I think if we can put it out there and say, hey, you know what? I'm struggling with this too. Then we make that uncomfortable just a little bit more comfortable for someone to talk about. And then I think when we talk about it, that's the icebreaker right there to actually figuring it out. Yeah.
exactly. I think it is important because, if you give somebody the opportunity to feel safe,
Yeah.
to feel validated, to feel heard,
Yeah.
then you've given that person all the power to figure out what they need to do on their own.
Yeah. And sometimes that means saying, hey, here's my soft spots. Here's my vulnerable spots. Because let me go down a quick rabbit hole before we close out. So with body language, when someone is uncomfortable, we all have this evolutionary tactic where we hide our main arteries, right? So
Yep.
crossing our
The
arms,
arm.
we're hiding our heart, we're hiding our or some people do this, like women will do this, they're hiding their carotid.
Yep.
Like so
Yeah.
so I always thought that was interesting. So if we can flip that on its ass and we say, hey, here is my carotid artery, or hey, metaphorically, here is my soft spot. I think it helps people out a lot. I really like the concept of that. So
Between that and then teaching somebody to move their body through that, which
yeah,
is something I've kind of developed through grief, is we don't just see it. Oh, okay, I see you're having some grief. Take this microdose, and but during that time we've talked, but then now we're gonna move the body.
yeah.
I'm gonna
How does the
yeah.
microdose tie into that? How does that help people?
Just relaxes somebody just a little bit more. I mean, for years we've known this, and then, aha, government
I
said it's
know
good for you now.
that's how it
Um,
happens. Everything happens that way.
so, okay, thank you. But, yeah, so we've always had this. And so every time I tried it younger, pre-government rules, whatever,
Yeah.
but we always moved our body. You'd go for a, 6-hour hike.
Okay.
That wasn't microdosing, but now it's just a little bit just to help things refire, move the body a little
Okay.
differently.
Yeah, I think mental health starts in your body. I think a lot of mental health starts in your body. I don't think you can think. I think out. This isn't my original quote, but Chris Williamson said, "Overthinking or thinking your way out of overthinking is like trying to sniff your way out of a cocaine addiction." I think
Yeah,
I think a lot of times if you're stuck in your head, just move your body a little bit, and you can learn a whole lot from that.
that is so true. I wish they had more ranches that would hire younger people going through
Yep.
mental instability
Yeah.
and just working through,
Yeah.
but not charge somebody, what, $5,000 for the month? You're like, dang, I didn't sign up for a resort. I want my kid to work,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So,
We're losing that. We're losing that. We're becoming a lazier society, anyways. I think we're kind of losing the work ethic that we once had, or maybe that's just an opinion. Maybe that's not really happening, but that's I'm of that opinion that I think we're kind of losing our work ethic as far as thousands of years ago we ran for miles and miles and miles just to eat,
yeah,
just to freaking eat.
or the survivor,
Yeah,
you know?
just to survive. And now we're sitting in our living rooms and we can order food off Uber Eats, and we don't. So I think that is one thing that's kind of fucking us up in a way, is that we're not
Yeah.
putting ourselves in a position to actually move our body.
Yeah, it's true. Well, and then the old saying of, there's a lot of assuming going on, so we know what that means.
Yeah.
Assuming is
Yeah. Makes sense.
making a mess out of you.
All right. Well, I thank
So,
you very much for being on today. Thank you.
thank you so much. It was great to be here.
And thank you for what you do for people. Even if maybe you don't hear that enough, or maybe, I think what you're doing is very important, because I think it's bucking society in a way. It's bucking our societal trend to not deal with the uncomfortable, to not learn, if we're not teaching our children, or we're not teaching people who come after us how to deal with grief, then grief naturally gets lost in the fray. Then we no longer know how to express those emotions. We don't know how to feel grief, much less help someone else grieve. A lot of times we'll have a bro, or we'll have a friend who's going through something. And I know this is men anyways. If I've got a friend that's going through something and I've felt it before, and I've felt it toward me before, that if someone's going through something hard, it's easy to be there for a second, but then we're like, man, I hope he gets over it so we could just be friends again. Like I want to be back to that comfortable position to where he's not over there fucking grieving. So I think there's a
Yeah,
lot we can
it's
learn.
it's hard to lean into suffering for sure.
Yeah, there's
But
definitely.
all you need is the heart and the ears,
Yeah.
really.
So there's a lot. I
So
think there's a lot we could learn from what you do. I think there's a lot we can learn from people at the end of their lives if we're willing to actually learn that and not have to touch the hot pan ourselves. So,
True.
so
Thank you, Kevin.
yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Have a good weekend. And I'm going to do some back end stuff to the episode, and I will tag you in it as soon as it's ready. Okay.
All good. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of your Sunday.
All right. Bye, Yeshim.
Bye.